acting as my other light balancing me. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Krishna Priya. This is a Human Colony Hucolo webinar. It is Saturday, the 4th of February, 2023. And let me grab the YouTube before it starts. There it goes. And we will be doing open channeling today, which means we are going to be opening up to questions from within the room, but also within YouTube chat. And pretty much anything you want to ask is on the table. We have a group of channelers here that are ready, willing, and able to take a stab at your question. In the room today, we have Radha, Susan, Wendy, Kat. We're waiting on Angie, and yeah, more will tumble in as we get going. But hello, everyone, and welcome. So I don't even see anybody in the live stream. We're a little bit late in starting, so let's give everybody a minute. But what we were discussing is belief systems with Radha before we went live. And she was saying that she really hadn't grown up with any, she'd sort of kicked out all of her belief systems. Right, Radha?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we should start with before we start? I just totally forgot. We should start with a prayer. Let's hold that thought. And Susan and Wendy, why don't you do a prayer? We'll go with Susan first, and then we'll do Wendy, and then we'll get going. So, and I'm going to see if I can't get Kat's thing off screen. There. Okay, Susan, did you want to do a blessing? Susan or Wendy, are you there?
Yeah, I can start. I don't know if
okay, go ahead.
Foster or her mic or what, but
yeah. Do you have a mic? Do you have a you don't have a camera on?
I'm on my iPad, so I don't have my camera with
Okay,
me.
no problem. All right, no problem. Go ahead.
So apologies, but here we go. Aranyurako naratai tiarankahuya nahara. Unyarakayan naratai nara tahuira nara kahira mahuira de ichiki itohuho amarata ira tahuya nara tahira nahaha. Oh.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Blessings. Susan, did you want to do a?
Sure, I can do a blessing too.
Okay.
Tia sikoto ayasia, sikoto tia hikua sikitikua, hitia ia sia tatoto ahitia yakoto tia ie, hia sikoto aya sikoto ahitia koto aya sikitia. Hosia yekia koto tahitia koto yahia, si koto yahia sikitokoa, he sikoto ayatia o sikatahia tia koto totia. Hia zia tokuia ia tia o sikataya tia kototoia ia sikitia sukototoia tia kio hia sukotoia itia kitia sukotoia.
Thank you. All right, we were in a discussion, and maybe this is a good little discussion we can have while people come in. And if there's any questions, does anyone have, first of all, does anyone have any questions that need to be channeled? Susan, Wendy? Radha, no questions? No questions.
Maybe
okay.
maybe one.
Okay,
one
what's your question? Sure.
So I had a dream recently where I dreamed of two, like a male and a female Black Panther. I was kind of walking along a stream, and there was like some, I think, snow melt, like rain, you know, it was like springtime. The river was higher, or the creek was higher than normal, and I was kind of jumping from rock to rock along the side of the creek. And then I looked through kind of a broken part of a fence, and I saw what I thought was just a black cat, but then it kind of moved beyond the fence, and I saw that it was a Black Panther. And then I looked a short distance away from it to kind of to the left, and there was like a female, so a male and a female Black Panther. And I think I've had one other dream years ago with a Black Panther in it, and so I'm just wondering if if it's one of my totem guides or
Yeah.
what type of message that
No, it's
was
a
about.
spirit
Yeah.
animal.
Spirit
It's
animal.
definitely
Yeah.
a spirit animal totem guide for sure. So you need to, and the fact that they weren't, doing anything to you, they were just sort of around you. It
They
means
were
that they
just like
were,
making their presence known. They're calm
yeah,
and peaceful, and yeah.
right.
And I
So
don't
they
know if it
definitely,
had something to do with like divine masculine and feminine. That was a male and a female.
well, for sure, it would be a balance of the two of them. But yeah, it's just that is I mean, if you think about all the symbolism that goes with a panther, they're sleek, they're cunning, they're strong, they're invisible a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah. Very, yeah, silent, quiet. Yeah.
yeah,
But I was
but
in a kind
watching,
of a
alert.
happy mood, kind of skipping along the rocks, enjoying like, yeah, it was like warm sunshine, beautiful spring day type atmosphere. So
Well, it's just also too, it would be, you know, it's also a call for being aware because you were there sleep, just happy-go-lucky, and yet in the
yeah,
grass is these panthers who probably are stronger and faster and quicker and more
yeah,
cunning than you. But I just looked up something for Black Panther, and it says it belongs to those who live honestly and authentically. And the call, the Black Panther, is when it's your power animal, when it's your power animal or your totem, is that have courage when you need to stand alone. And there you were alone, and
yeah,
being, I mean, you didn't
yeah.
mention you were scared of anything.
No,
No,
I just hadn't had a chance to like look up what the meaning, yeah, the Black Panther totem animal meaning.
well,
I usually do that, but I just hadn't had the chance this week.
yeah, I just the thing that came to me was more of that they were watching you, not stalking you, but watching you, two of them, and moving along with you, because you noticed them at one moment, but my feeling is they had been there a long time, like watching you.
Yeah, it was
And that's what a
almost,
guide would do.
it wasn't like, yeah, I didn't feel any fear. It wasn't like, it was like, yeah, I wouldn't say they were my protectors per se, because I didn't feel in danger in any way, but yeah, just guides, friends, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and the other thing,
it was kind of a, yeah, it felt loving, and yeah, that they were there with me, helping to guide me or something to that effect. But
well, the other thing that comes to my feeling is that they're known for being fast. So if you are to take on their essence, it would mean making quick decisions, turning on a dime, knowing, where you need to go and then going there quickly. So maybe there's something coming in your life that you need to decide about, that you need to make a quick decision. You need to have panther-like
follow
reflexes.
my instincts. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And that's probably the message. Follow your
yeah,
instincts, that you have, within you the ability to embody a panther when
yeah.
necessary, and that you can shift as you
Yeah,
need
I
to.
tend to, yeah, just think about things, but then, yeah, once I make a decision, I do tend to move quickly.
Mhm.
But yeah, sometimes I just sit and watch and observe, kind of like a panther
Yeah.
would before making a move. But
They also have a mystery of the darkness, because they're black, and they have,
yeah,
but they're also associated with the moon and darkness and magic.
or
So
maybe
there's
the
also,
unknown, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and the occult, which is basically the unknown. So there's the levels of that as well, and that can be your connection into that.
yeah. And I'm
Also
assuming
too,
in the coming years we'll have to, yeah, be adaptable, move quickly, and yeah,
but
trust our
in like,
instincts. I
yeah, but
think
in
that
like
applies.
American Indian theology, or mysticism, they talk about like the spirit animal through which the eyes through which they can see. And the panther was one. Like, people would take the form of an eagle in flight to observe, but also a panther, which is a different perspective than, say, an eagle. So there might be the
Yeah,
call to connect to the being of the panthers, so that you can see from their perspective, because they perceive the world probably much differently than you do. There is all about danger and opportunity, hunting being well, they're probably not hunted, but still being safe.
Yeah.
Providing the fact that
Being
they were,
aware of your surroundings. Yeah.
but also being with a mate would imply responsibility towards another. So maybe it's also
awesome.
time for there to be another. Maybe there's another panther.
I've got well, I think
You wanna-
possibly on the Scotland, Ireland trip, I was kind of getting the message I might meet someone there. So we'll see what happens. But
All right.
that
Let
Wendy
us
and I
know.
are going and her husband in June. So
Well, it'll be interesting to find out. You come back with a fourth person.
yeah,
You
so
leave
we'll
with
see.
3, you come back with 4. We'll
Or
see.
just a connection, well, initial
Yeah.
connection. Yeah, we'll see what
Very
happens.
cool. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that insight. And it like triggered some insight in myself
Good.
as we were talking. So, and yeah, I'll have to connect in my own, channeling meditation, connect with the
And when you
Panthers
do,
and see what
you
other
know,
messages they might have for me.
yeah, when you do, like, do some things like put a picture of a panther in front of you so that you can connect, to create sort of the atmosphere. Maybe play nature sounds while you're meditating so that it puts you in the forest where they would be. Do a little research, find out what's their habitat. And so how
Or
can
look
you
up videos on YouTube
exactly
of panthers and listen to some of the sounds they make. I mean, they do make some sounds, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. Thank
Did
you.
anyone else have a question? You're welcome. Did anyone else have a question? Wendy, Radha? No? Okay. Let me just check the YouTube chat and see if anyone has any questions. Hi, Matt Wally. Hi, everyone in the YouTube chat. Did anyone there have a question? If you have a question, then please type it in and we'll do our best to answer it. And then we're going to go back to the discussion that we were having with Radha before. Not to put you on the spot, Radha, at all, but it was an interesting conversation. That because I'm in India and you grew up in India or lived here as a child and you sort of walked away from Hinduism and I walked towards it, and now you're sort of circling back around, but you're not necessarily circling back to Hinduism, correct? More towards spirituality.
Hi, yes, that's correct. So as I was mentioning, I grew up in India till I was about 5 years old, and then my family moved to the US. And in India, as you know, you don't go outside and learn about religion. You just absorb it from the culture. There's no formal training. And I essentially, looked at it like Greek mythology, because there were all the gods and, all the rituals. So, didn't really have a good understanding of it or was that interested in it. But now, of course, with the awakening and learning about anything you can dream of is probably real. So, now taking a look at things from that perspective, and also just the fact that, thought forms also create a certain resonance. Like when people go to the Ganges, the Ganga, right, to bathe. I mean, it's not the cleanest water, but the fact that so many people believe in its healing powers, makes it so. So just the dynamics of our thoughts, of our understanding, and
Well, where I am, the water's pretty clean because we're pretty much close to the source. We're not that far from the source of it, but there's different times of the year where it's really muddy. Like right now, it's pretty clear. And as we go into spring, it'll get even clearer, as the sediment, because there's no sediment coming down. And then by April, right before the monsoon starts in July, it starts to get super muddy, and then the water gets very high and it's really dirty. But there's also some chemicals in the water that are also from the mountains that tend to neutralize a lot of stuff that's gone in there. I don't know how it is all the way downstream, but I know up close to the source, it's pretty amazing, the properties of the water that has been studied by scientists, not just like my opinion, of it. And they, because of everything that's dumped in Ganga, there's a lot of pollution for sure. But there now also are so many programs, and the ashram where I am, we have something called a Green Ganga program, where we are actually actively up and down Ganga providing programs to keep Ganga clean, so people aren't dumping so much in. And that's actually one of the reasons they started the Ganga Artis, is because they built altars all along the Ganga so that they would be doing their worshiping there, as opposed to defecating into the water and dumping their waste into the water and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I understand that. And in Hinduism, they believe, and I believe, that Ganga is the goddess Ganga, and that her form is the river. She's not just water flowing, but she is actually, her form is the river. So that Ganga is a goddess, as opposed to just a water body that's out there. But that's that's tied into Hinduism. So I understand your thing of the mythology, but the mythology is there to no, I'm called Krishna Priya. So my name's Deva Priya. That's no problem at all. Hi. What was I saying? No, I got thrown off by the thing. But the mythology is there because it is symbolic, and it all has, it has a basis in trying to communicate bigger ideas in a much more concrete way. Just like in Christianity, there's a lot of mythology there, but then there's a lot of, it's all just energy, basically. So, but I'm glad you're finding your way, no matter which way it is. Doesn't matter, that you're finding your way to something.
Yes, like we were saying, there's many roads to God, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And everybody has their own way of getting there.
Everyone singularly has their own specific path to God. So as many, everyone has their own version of God, every single person, and they're all correct. They're all correct because it's what they believe to be true. There's a book called, and I would look it up if I were you, because you were talking about thought forms, and it's a book called Nothing in This Book is Real, but Everything is True, or something like that. No, sorry. The name of the book is Nothing in This Book is Real, but It's Exactly the Way Things Are. And basically it talks about thought forms and how they're created, and how, what we believe is what comes true. And it's a really fascinating book. It was written in like the 80s or something like that, but it basically explains that whole thing that you're talking about in a real way. Hi, Ian. See, here comes all the people in now. Sorry. Okay, so let's take a question from the chat. Did you have anything else to add about that, Raha, or are we complete?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, good. All right. But I think it's fascinating. I had once a teacher, just an aside, I had a philosophy teacher who used to be a Catholic priest, and then he became an atheist. And he was fascinating to talk to, because he still believed, he just had stopped believing in a certain, look at you looking all pretty there, Wendy. He had stopped believing in the religion as it was designated. And so in his mind, his only alternative was to believe in nothing. And that to me was always fascinating. But as you talk to him, you really found out that he did believe. It just didn't fit into the box from which he had come, So I think we all find our way eventually. And even if we don't believe, we can be just perfectly happy, fine people. Okay. Let's see. Tanita can see entities in the clouds. Awesome. Okay. Where is Jim? Jim will be in next week, Mr. Plate. And Jim is here every other week. Okay. Just Thinking. All right. Just Thinking is the name of the person. And they ask, because I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, says, does everyone have a higher self? And do Earth native souls have a higher self too?
Yes.
Earth natives being what? I don't know what an Earth native soul would be. What would an Earth native soul be? Everyone has a higher self for sure. But what is an Earth native soul? I think the fact that you call it an Earth native soul, just by definition, would have a soul.
Right.
But what is it? If you can define what an Earth native soul is, then I can tell you, but I don't even know what that would mean.
Well, what's interesting when Susan was talking about her
One second, Mr. Plate, he
Oh.
hasn't done every week for like 7 years. So that's why. He doesn't do
What
every
do you-
Saturday webinar. He does every other week for the last like 7 years. So, and he just wanted more time for himself. That's all. Earth Day. Oh, he's saying every soul that's not a star seed. Yeah, a soul is being a star seed and being a native of Earth has nothing to do with whether or not you have a soul. Being a star seed means that it no problem. Means that you are maybe 100% earthling, but you know, most of us, by the time we roll around into this lifetime, we're so much of so many things. I mean, we've all been so many things, and so it would be really hard to distinguish who specifically is this, who specifically is that. And in this day and age, most people who have any kind of awareness, you know, anybody that's sort of waking up is some sort of star seed. That's what I would say. I don't think that there's any, I mean, unless you can come with a person who's 100% unique and never has only been on Earth, okay, but I think it would be very hard to distinguish, especially when you think about past lives and overlapping lives. And if you look at it from the soul standpoint, we have so many incarnations. It's very, very likely that we could be incarnated like just in a line from, say, Adam and Eve to now on the Earth and nothing outside. But then there's going to be a part of our soul that would be incarnated in many different forms, including that of a starseed. So that would be the answer to the question. Tanita says, I can see entities in the clouds. They seem to flow through our skies via ships with rows of beings within. I believe they're one-dimensional beings, but exactly what are they doing up there? So one dimension would be a dot on a flat surface. Is that what you mean? Because two-dimensional would be, you know, you have one dimension would be something flat and then a dot on it. But two-dimensional could be a piece of paper with two sides to it. So is that what you mean? Okay, I would define what do you mean by one-dimensional beings? All right, hey Met Wally. I am tasked with carving an ankh. Now I carved 2 of them, one for the person of me as well. Can you maybe tell me something about how the ankh feels for you? Do you want to show me it? I'm so influenced by the Logan's Run version of the ankh that I think I have a different perspective of ankhs. But to me, I mean, they're they're Egyptian in nature, and they were always a source of power, and they were always pulling down power. That's what I feel. And so it would, if you're drawing, if they would be sort of twin ankhs, and one for me and one for another person, or one for you and one for another person, if you can twin them, then there will be a connection between the 2 of them. That's how I see them, as having twin energy.
I also see them as technology back when they were actually being used, that they were probably connection to their ship. If you want to think of how we use cell phones today, that there was some kind of a resonance that was within the ankh. So the symbology within it, with, you know, with the continuation of life,
Right.
that it, you know, with the meaning that's behind it, I think it definitely has that you've either got a past life or you've got an experience with connecting with the guide, that is
Yeah.
giving you this information about the Ankh and asking you to recall that information. And so a lot of times with our spirituality, you get the information, but not until you're doing something with the information does it really start to like click in, which is why sometimes, like you were saying with the spirit animal, getting into the mood of it, the feel of it, like the experiencing it here in the physical, not just having it, up here kind of rattling around in the mind space.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we do any kind, I mean, that's why, you talk about rituals. Radha was saying, she didn't like the rituals of certain things, but I was actually going through, there's some nice questions coming in the YouTube chat as well. So we'll get back to those. But, when I was sort of playing around with Western, they did a lot of rituals too. And they were a lot of sort of Greek mythology. And it's about putting you in a certain headspace so that you can embody the underlying motivations, desires, feelings, situations, so that you can set the intention that is in alignment with that. And you really have we have such ancestral memory. I believe, and it's never been confirmed to me, but this is just something I channeled and it feels true to me, that we also have a sort of psychic DNA that goes across, that's outside of our physical DNA, which would go back to our physical ancestors. But then we also have a sort of past life DNA or a soul DNA that's connected. And we can tap into that in anything and really get into that feel. It's just like an actor who, channels the person that they're, like the guy who just what's his Ashton Butler that just did Elvis. I mean, he ate, slept, and breathed Elvis for 2 years. And then after it, he couldn't shake him for a while, but he really he went to Graceland and had a very spiritual experience with Elvis, where Elvis basically showed up and said, hey, I'm going to help you here. And I think it was Jim Carrey that also did the same with Andy, what's his face? That Andy Kaufman, who died. And he literally, people said he was basically Andy Kaufman for a while. That he was people were like weirded out by the fact he really became Andy Kaufman. I don't think we have to go to that extreme, but one of the things I do as a psychic, and one of the things I'm known for, is sitting in a person and I get a lot of calls about, when is my boyfriend coming back? How does he feel about me? What is his thoughts, his intentions? And I have this ability, and I believe perfected through meditation, in doing these kind of reflective rituals where I really try to embody that which I am meditating upon. And it also comes down to like stuff you do in acting. I mean, you learn it in acting class. So I was an actress, so it kind of came naturally, where you are, like they say, be a tree. I mean, it might sound silly, but you can literally get into the mentality of a tree and on some level experience. I know this would sound crazy to anybody who wasn't like into this stuff. So anybody who's not into
I
the
did
stuff
it
that
too.
maybe
I feel
judging me, just walk a mile in my shoes. Okay. But
be the tree.
Be the tree, and you can be the tree. You can,
Yes.
because you can connect to literally, because we're one, right? Okay, just to get into the philosophy, and I'm kind of channeling here in case anybody wants to know, but because we're one, this is Theos coming through, there's nothing that we can connect to in any time, space, or part of reality. And it's just not earth beings that are one. We're one, the entire universe and universes, and everything that is part of the oneness. There's nothing outside of oneness. There's not the oneness here and then that outside. One means one. It's only one. There's nothing but one. There's nothing outside the one. And even if there was something outside the one, it would be by definition still part of the one. So let's eliminate that part. But because of that rule, the oneness, there is nothing that we are not actually part of. There is no part where I begin and Wendy ends. There is no part where I am disconnected from this chair that I'm sitting in, from this empty drink bottle that I was drinking out of, it is also part of me. Everything is part of us. Everything is part of each other. So to tune in and to log into something is not that hard. It just requires the ability or the intention to sit in. And so, as I was saying, I do that for a lot of my clients, and I do it with permission. I don't possess them, but there's a part of my mentality or part of my mental space that is able to be them for just a moment. And I can say, how do you feel about this person? And then I get the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions of that person. And generally what's kind of interesting is I will say something like, they feel such and such, and the person will say back to me, that's exactly what they said to me the other day. You know, and I don't know that I'm saying what that, like, I don't know. Yes, I'm not to the degree where I went, I told you the other day, but they will say it to me and it will be exactly the same. So, you know, you get the confirmation it's accurate, but everyone could do that, and everyone could do that with anything. So this idea that we are separate at all is incorrect. We are definitely connected to each other on every level. So Wally's asking about the Ankh. He's saying he's wondering what personality it would have. And I would say that was something you would come with in meditation. And I would say actually do some kind of ceremony where you meet and greet your Ankh. And the reason I'm looking over here is I have a screen over here where all the chat is. So I apologize for looking away. But I would sit down and I would put some Egyptian symbolism, maybe Ankhs, and, you know, make some pyramids or something in your background. And I would sit and I would connect to the Ankh. And just like channeling, I would ask it questions. Who are you? What is your energy? You say it's got a female energy. That sounds perfectly good to me. And I would connect to that personality and ask that in meditation, in dreams, and inspiration, you get to build a relationship with this piece of art that you're connecting, because it is a creation. And you are breathing life into it with every stroke of your, you know, however you're making it, with every form that you're doing with it, you are actually creating a life there. Divine Peace says, do I mean that we have cell memories from different experiences, either currently? Yes, I believe, I don't know that they're cellular on the cellular level. I believe we have a sort of cellular, this is not proven, this is just my feeling, that within our etheric body, we carry, and in Hinduism, they do confirm that we carry our karmas. Now, people think karma is only things that have been done wrong, but karma simply means action. Every action we take, every decision, every choice is a karma, and it creates a equal and opposite reaction. And those we carry with us. There's several kinds of karma. There's the karma that you have that, you know, where you get it right back right away, like you would do a good deed is done. But you have karma that follows you, karmic packages, they call them, that follow you from lifetime to lifetime. And that's more what I mean. I believe we can tap into those memories that are within our etheric body that stay with us lifetime after lifetime, because we drop our physical body and we drop a lot of the memory of this body, that we don't come, like most of us don't come in. There's a few people, obviously there are exceptions, and throughout time, that come in with some memory of a past life, but it's generally not the full life. They might remember as a small child that they were this guy and they died this way and they had this situation, but most of us don't come in with the full memory. But it still exists. It's just difficult for us to tap into it, because for most part, it wouldn't serve us in this life. It would be too confusing. So we sort of put our shutters on and we don't bring the memory of our previous life with us, though it still exists. But on a karmic level, on an action level, there's certain lessons and things that we need to learn, we need to rectify, we need to heal. That's why ancestral trauma and all of that stuff is really important to look at and to try and heal it, because we are the ones that have come forward to heal it. But we bring it all with us and it is accessible. But I think to answer your question, I believe that in our physical DNA that came from our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, there's a sort of cellular memory. And then within our etheric body, there's more of a soul memory, the soul incarnation memory. So that's what I mean there. Okay, just thinking. Okay, once I want to go back to this one question that was up here. I think someone asked, can we invite Daryl Anka? No, I don't think so. And it's not Ankara, it's Daryl Anka. No. Yeah, we could invite him. I don't think he'll come. Let me see.
There's also a book
Okay, go
called
ahead.
The Power. There's also a book called The Power of the Ankh. And it talks about unlocking the keys to ancient wisdom, health. And it's one of the books that I've read. But if you look at it too, it does kind of look like a key. So it does, yeah. It's definitely meditation with the symbol. But you know what's funny? Susan has the Black Panther dream, and I had the jaguar. And I don't know if you can see my earrings are jaguar earrings.
Oh wow. Yeah.
But
cool. Different kind of cat.
Definitely a power animal, a symbolism to potentially shamanism, which that's where my connection is with the jaguar. And and having those capabilities within yourself to use that particular spirit animal within your own healing capabilities. So for example, I could use the power of the jaguar to assist with healing others when working with them in the session. The power animal may come up and say, here's where you need to be courageous and powerful, and using that wisdom in that sense. But another thing that you mentioned earlier, but I don't know, I'll let you circle back to it when you want to bring it up, but thought forms. I had an experience during a session with working with someone with thought forms that came up. And so, but I'll let you go ahead and direct it, whether you want me to keep going with that or if you want to.
We can go. I want to bring up something else about what came to my mind that Theos was mentioning. There's a very strong belief, at least within many different belief systems, that you keep who you're working with sort of in their own lane, if that makes sense. It's just like if you are dealing with Egyptian thoughts, Egyptian kind of terminology, theology, then you stay. That's why I was saying embody that which you are trying to understand, because you shouldn't approach it from like, hey, I'm a Western guy wearing khaki pants and sunglasses, to look at what an ancient Egyptian god would say. You would want to approach it from the mentality of that. And just like if you were dealing with voodoo gods, you would approach them in the way of voodoo or African ways. And if you're approaching American shamanism from the American gods of the ancestors, you would approach it in that way and be respectful of each system and not try to mix them up, because they developed, just like eating regional food, they develop based on the culture, the climate, the time period, and the happenings of that time within when they existed. And that's how you connect to them more, as opposed to, and that's why a lot of people get angry with metaphysics and a lot of new age stuff, is because people like try to borrow from everything and then they create something totally different that's really not consistent with how it was created. So I just wanted to bring that up. But as far as thought forms, we can go back to that, Angie, Wendy. I know that my great teacher, this woman named Caroline Hart, who did spirit attachment and release, she was one of the first people in the US to do that. She was highly trained in that. And she talked about people had just as many attachments that were just thought forms that then say spirit attachment.
Yes. And that's exactly what this experience was. This woman that I was working with, very very pretty woman. And when I went to check her for any attachments, any entity attachments that were part of her being or creating, that negative energy within her field, there were two that wanted to come up and be released. And so the one that I was talking to was a thought form. And here's the other thing. It wasn't her thought form, although once it attached to her, it became part of her and within her field and her own thought form, but it was sent to her by somebody else. So somebody else had this very negative idea about people with beauty. And so this person was not really cursing them, but sending these negative thought forms toward that individual. And so there is a reality to that, your thoughts can become things, right? And that you can create. And so this woman was actually creating this negative thoughts. So I released it from her. And then I actually kind of traced it back to the woman that was sending it and found whoever else she sent these thought forms to. And there were 45 different individuals that actually had these dark thoughts attached to them. And we just ended up removing them during that session, clearing, sending violet flame and white light.
It's probably it's so common. I doubt there's a person in here that doesn't have some kind of thought form attachment. And it's because unless you're really going through, and it's not about cleansing yourself like in fear of just, it's about
exactly. It's just
about
a daily
lightening up. It's about lightening.
It's just a daily
energy.
connecting in with your higher self and with your I am presence and just
I always had this thought. It's not thought.
Use the violet flame.
Thought,
easy.
That if you look at people, say in Hollywood, I don't know why my shirt keeps falling down. If you look at people in Hollywood and their marriages and how fragile their marriages are, look at the jealousy of people towards someone who's famous. And this person ends up with this person. And as soon as they end up together, they're being attacked. They've got people coming at them, whether it's men or women, throwing themselves at them. It's like the thought forms that come at them. You don't deserve that person. Why should you have that? There's so much of that anger, jealousy coming at these people. And as soon as you're, and if you think about a lot of actors, and I'm not defending them or anything, but so many people who are in the arts are so vulnerable anyway, because they're in the arts because they have a need to be loved, and so whenever their energy is lower, these thoughts can just glom onto them, and it creates all kinds of dynamics. And so that's why it's so important to surround yourself with positive people, to meditate daily, to clean your energy systems, so that other people's stuff is not just glomming onto you, because any negative thoughts that we have are like a piece of gum stuck to us. And then anything that's equally similar floating by will just keep getting stuck on it. And before you know it, you got this big old wad of gunk on you,
Yeah.
And
black tar. It shows up a lot as it does. It shows up a lot as black tar. And what's crazy is it's so easy to dissolve it. All you have to think of is source light coming down on you like oil, and it just releases. It just turns into sand. It's that fast.
If you get into joy and happiness, that's why Abraham Hicks talks about rampages of appreciation, sending out more, getting into a beautiful state of happiness and bliss and appreciation. That stuff just falls right off. It's not, but it's when we don't, when we get into our own negative spirals, and that stuff just keeps kind of glomming on. But thought forms are probably more toxic for us as human beings than, say, entities that would, because some people have, and a lot of people do, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot harder for an entity to attach to you than a thought form. And so many thought forms we have are formed in childhood, parents that weren't supportive, parents who didn't know any better, who put you down, who compared you, who put negative thoughts. Because when you're a little kid, when you're just a little, any kid starting from birth till now, they've been around for a year. They've been around for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of their life. The only people that they're exposed to most of the time is their parent or parents. So their parents are their information stream that informs their entire formative life. So when the parent says you're stupid, then they believe on some level, yes, I must be stupid because here's my, they talk about in Hinduism that your parent is your divine masculine, feminine for you. And if you have one or both, they are that. So they're the closest thing to God, your parent. They feed you, bathe you, clothe you, house you. They do everything for you. And they are the information system from which you learn. They are your emotional guideposts. Everything you learn is from your parent or from the adult around you. And the first thing you learn tends to be what you believe. It's very difficult. If you've ever looked in psychology where they actually map out how long it takes to change a person's mind about anything, it's a long process. It's not people's minds change in an instant. Sometimes, but rarely. There's usually a lot of sowing of ground before someone's mind can flip. That's why political philosophies, if you have a certain political philosophy, it's very hard to change your mind from one thing to the other. It takes a long time and a lot of reinforcement. And so much of the reinforcement people get when they have negative examples, it's so ingrained. And even when you come to them with something completely different, it's so hard for them to even accept. Because their belief is the same.
That's like the majority of healing, and everybody who's on or has begun their own healing journey typically start with their own current life and their own processes of healing what they experienced as a child, the things that they had gone through, or whether it's their own family or relationships or self-imposed, that happens too. So, and when you start that healing path, a lot of times that's where it steps into that some of these past lives that you're experiencing in this life would have been past life too, that trauma. And so it accumulates. And then that's when you start really feeling that heaviness around your being. Some people may liken it to depression or that sadness that can be around you. And it's releasing that and being able to acknowledge it, send love to yourself as the child and accept yourself, and then rewrite the story, by rewriting the story and saying, like the example of you're stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm a smart adult. I can do, this, that, and other. And just like you said, with the, with Abraham Hicks and the appreciation, you can do the same thing. You can go through, a huge list of what are your accomplishments? What are the things that say that you're not what the thought form that's saying that you are, that put you on the opposite side of that. So you're flipping the coin, but it's interesting. It's really interesting how
it's a whole thing, it's a whole thing, it's a whole thing.
I see some questions.
Yeah, I do too. So I want to go through
negative energy to
let me answer the question here. Radha says, do light workers have more negative energy to transmute than others? No. The difference is light workers are now aware versus unaware. I mean, if you're just happy, or maybe not even happy, but if you're just bebopping through life and you have not had your sort of awakening, the last thing you're thinking about is negative energy transmutation. So, and it just means they're not ready. I think that there's everybody wakes up in the time they wake up, everyone becomes aware. And so light workers, it's sort of their job to transmute negative energy, or it's their job to bring more positive energy into the world. I kind of think that we don't have to necessarily focus on the negative, but sort of create more positive and let the negative stuff, if you raise your energy, the negative stuff falls off most of the time. It's very rarely that you have to really dig into the negative. It's almost like by putting focus on it, you create more of it. And where attention goes, energy flows, right? So you don't want to focus more on the negative, but you want to create alternative positive. And light workers tend to, it depends on the light worker, but you can get caught up in this sort of martyrdom system of, oh, I have to transmute all the negative energy of the world. You could spend most of your life just shining your light, and people like moths to a flame are drawn to the light. So shine your light and allow others to come to it. But we as light workers have to also work on our own energy and to transmute our own. But we can transmute it not by looking at it, focusing on it, trying to beat it down and pick it apart, but we can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to now focus myself and my future and everything I'm doing on the positive. And the negative stuff will just, because in the face of light, darkness disappears, right? So the answer wouldn't be chase down the negative, it would be bring in more light. That would be really the answer. And Ian was saying, same with Jamie Foxx. Absolutely. Okay, let me take this question from the chat. Okay. I believe it might be really. Jay Shri, she says, your mother-in-law feels like there might be negative energy attacking her. She needs to lighten up. Basically, she needs to surround herself with light and to raise her energy vibration. Negative energy cannot penetrate light. It cannot penetrate a positive energy. But if she feels there's negative energy attacking her, that means that her vibration is in tune with that negative energy. I'm not saying she's a terrible person. There's no judgment there, but she needs to literally lighten up and bring in light, And what happens, Jade Sri? She says it's attacking her when she is praying. Yeah, see that when sadness, unfortunately, is a lower energy. It doesn't mean that sadness is understandable, but if she feels like she's being, oh, I see your father. So she's in a depression. Is she seeing a doctor about it? Is she doing any kind of medical stuff? She's saying that her father passed away and she's been in a sort of deep state of sadness, and now she's having attacks when she prays. Ultimately, she has to lighten up her energy. She has to raise her energy. But the other thing you can do in the meantime is you can call on someone like Archangel Michael. Oh, okay, I'm in India. So what she could do is she could go to the priest. She's in India. She could start calling on Ganesha, right? Okay, no problem. She can call on Ganesha. She can talk, to put a Ganesha removes blocks and negative energy. So she can call on Ganesha. She can also do the Mahamrityunjaya mantra as a protection mantra, which would be a very good one. And she can also pray to Durga. That's what I would have her do, because Durga is, the supreme goddess to lighten up. And basically then on a daily basis, she needs to do some things that it's hard if you lose, you lose someone because you're kind of lost in that grief, but you're not in India, no? But to do some things that are really positive. So maybe she could, if she would want to, go to an ashram and do some service. If she believes in crystals and salt, if she feels protected by them, have her put a circle of salt around her, have her put crystals around her and to call in positive energy, if she believes that, if she believes in crystals. But I would say Ganesha is probably more powerful, but she could set up some Ganesha around her and start chanting Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha and doing some kind of puja would be very good. But really, her mood really has to shift, and she needs to do some things that make her feel hopeful. Yeah, she needs to be in a high vibrational place. So maybe she could come visit you for a little while and get into a more happy place, you know? Yeah, what Matt Wally says, she must find one thing per day she's grateful for and then focus on that. That is the rampage of appreciation. I'm grateful that I have a beautiful daughter. I'm grateful that, you know, up into this, yeah, her mood is the issue. And the thing is that energy is attacking you. It's not that it's not real. It's not that it's not real. It's just, it's like an elevator. And if you're down on the lower basement floors of energy, then, you know, that's where those hangs hang out. It's like hanging out in a really bad neighborhood. Okay, so let me go back to this room before we get going. I don't know what time it is because I'm in India and I don't know what time it is. So can someone tell me what time it is EST?
12:16.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Wendy has a question for Theos. Go ahead, Wendy, and I'll get Theos to come through.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Mm.
So my question is related to this dream that I had, and I don't really remember a lot of the specifics of it, but the point that I do remember is going out I'd say the back door, and leaving out the back door was 2 screens. So, and they swung in 2 different directions, one to the right, one to the left. And so I recall going out the back door and then looking back to the house. And as I was looking back to the house, I could see the shadow of a woman. And it's almost like, you know, what they call the long shadows, the 5 o'clock shadow, or they use this in the movie, like with cartoons a lot, where they'll show a little teeny tiny person, but they're
The long
backlighted, and then the shadow is like tremendous. And so I'm wondering what this represents. And I kind of feel like this shadow might be
You?
like me. Yeah, like I'm recognizing that I am this broader, bigger person. Like I think I'm like this tiny person, and the shadow is actually me, this big being. So, but I'm wondering about these 2 screen doors and what,
Well,
like what.
okay. So the screen doors, they represent barriers to exit, basically. You know, they do swing open though. So it is possible, and you did go out, but they represent barriers to exit. And the fact that you have to swing one way and the other way, it means that there's some work involved in doing it, but it is possible. And then when you said you turned around and saw a woman and you saw this woman's shadow, well, you're the woman. You're the woman. And to realize that you are bigger than who you think, and your self extends far outside of your physical body. You know, it extends far outside. And what's interesting is the further you would have walked, the more bigger the shadow would have become.
Oh, wow.
So just realize that your true self is the shadow is more the realness of who you are versus this little dot that's walking along. But because you can't, you know, the one thing that we cannot see without a mirror is ourselves. We can see everything else, everyone else, everything outside of us, but we cannot see ourselves. And it's only through seeing a shadow that we can see ourselves, you know, our true self. But we can't see ourselves unless we have a mirror, right? And the mirror, in effect, would be the shadow by symbolism. But your true self is that, and you cannot see yourself also until the light is shining on you, which would be another thing. So shine your light on you so that you can see you. And the more you shine it, the bigger it would become. That's it. So, and also to get to that point, well, just to get to that point, there's some little barriers. I would say they're like the little coverings of our spirit that, you know, we talk, and this is Theos, we talk a lot about the fact that having singular focus as a human is really a gift. And it's also a necessity. It allows us to exist in the world without interruption and interference from all the other things that we don't necessarily need to perceive, but are actually there. It's just like dogs can see more colors on a spectrum that they can hear at different levels. All that stuff is happening all around us, but we're not perceiving it because it's really not that necessary for us to hear way up here or way down there, or visualize outside of, say, the color spectrum in which we exist. Because those are the things the tools that we have allow us to navigate this world. And the life of a dog is a bit different, though similar. And if you think about insects and all kinds of different parts of the world, they're existing on different spectrums within the same planet. And of course, there are different dimensions even within our own planet. So if we were to try to perceive all of that at once with the current filtering system that we have as a human being, we would freak out. And some people who do not have some of those binders in place do literally freak out because there's no filter for them. So this is lifting the filters, but not lifting them so that you can go mad, but lifting them so that on the spiritual side, you have the ability to see more and to know more of yourself. That's really what and we would perceive the house as really your own body, stepping outside of your own body, because our house, when we're inside our house is our body.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you for saying that, because that actually hit my mind once we were talking about the broadness of, I'm looking at myself. I was like, oh, the house is me. Like I stepped outside of my body and looking back at it. So yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's why it's so important that your home is comforting and safe. And that's why we feel so violated if someone were to come in to our home and rob us because it's penetrating our sanctum, our self. It's our external shell, basically. We're the turtle inside the shell of our house. So there's a lot of that as well. But so the house in this represents you, and then stepping through your, out beyond your own consciousness so you can see your true self. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Right. Susan had a question. Go ahead, Susan.
All right. And I think this will probably be for Theos as well. But so 2 days ago on Thursday night, I channeled a new being, or collective of beings, I should say, that they said they were Syrian, like amphibious humanoid beings, similar to salamanders, frogs, which I've always felt an affinity for. And I was getting that I was I already know I'm part of the Syrian collective, and that I've had lifetimes as a Syrian. And I kind of felt like perhaps I had a lifetime as them. But when I think they're the ones that spoke light language through me during this session. And so this was like a new connection for me. And I tried to connect with their name, and it wasn't coming through. And I'm just wondering if it's just hard to pronounce, or maybe I'm meant to connect with it later, unless Theos can connect with them and see what their name, or any other information about them would be wonderful. I'll continue to connect with them, but anything that they want me to know about them.
Well, what we saw as soon as you mentioned them was an amphibious looking being, sort of along the lines of a salamander, yet standing and not on fours.
Yeah, it was getting more salamander. Yeah.
And what we did see is a sort of, as well as, which is unsalamander like, basically, is a very wettish kind of skin. It has a sheen to it. It may or may not be actual water, but it has a sort of sheen, and it would be watery to the touch. And there is a sort of wave of a sort of thin-ish substance that goes down the length of the body, and that has different colorations on it. And these colorations extend over their face. We got a sort of name, but we will tell you that the sound is quite garbled in what we are, because their mode of communication is not by talking words. It's a sort of series of croaks and sounds, such as, so what we have, and we're trying to imitate it, because we do not have the vocal apparatus that they have, but it's a sort of kind of sound, and you would definitely need telepathic communication with them, because you may or may not be able to actually communicate face to face. It would definitely be telepathic, only because their mode of communication is much different in the vocal sounds that they would make. And their sounds are more expressive by means of warning and pain and causing to, calling for alert versus having conversation. So should you, by example, startle one, and they would make a sort of sound, but it necessarily wouldn't be a word like, oh my gosh, well, who are you? It would be more of a exclamation. And so their sounds are vocal we want to use the word not exploration, but exhalations. They would be things coming out that are not necessarily words, but they have a sound. And when we said, what are you called, the sound we got was this flock.
Walk, like FWOK, something like that.
We would leave it to you to assign a spelling, and
Okay.
we would say that it's in our ability to make the sound using Karen's vocal cords is, of course, not 100% accurate. It's as close as we can come. That's what we would tell.
So was I correct in my assessment that I've had a lifetime or lifetimes
Congruent
as
lifetime.
the congruent? Okay.
Congruent.
And what dimension or density are they in?
Well, we would say that they span several dimensions, but we're getting 7th at this moment.
Mainly in 7th. Okay.
But they do still have physical form, as we described. They have the ability to sort of shift into higher dimensions, but not within their own physical body.
So are they connecting with me now just so that I can become more aware of my concurrent lifetime, my other aspects?
Yeah, what we would say to you is that and what we saw is, as you were asking that question, is we would like for you to think of a circle being sort of the source of you, the sole source of you, or the full source of you. And even your higher self would be included in that. But we would say the core source of that which you are part of. And all of these sort of lines and pins coming out of it, like markers. And you can picture, we say a ball only because that's easy to visualize, but they are one of these extensions of the core of what you are. And we would say that you are not necessarily adjacent to them, where, say, if this is the ball and you're here, they would be somewhere over here, but they're part of the core of who you are. Not the entire race of them, but certainly one or two of them. And the incarnation, if you think of the core of who you are, the true soul or the oversoul, you can use that word, then they would be part of your oversoul, but not the oversoul itself, because the oversoul is sort of sending out incarnations. You are Susan, connected to your oversoul, your higher self even, and they are also part of this oversoul. And they're sort of also reaching out through their soul to find out who they are. Not everything is in service to you, is what we want to tell you, that you're connecting to. It's not all there to serve you and to help you, but there's actually natural curiosity of a soul's incarnations that have the accelerated understanding of a soul and what it means and how they are in existence. And there's a natural inclination to want to know itself fully. And part of that exploration is contacting the other parts of itself so that it can understand itself more fully. So they're not only there to help you, but they're there to know you. And we would encourage you to know them because they're you.
Okay. So
So
it's
not so much that you are part this or part that. You can literally say that about anything and everything, because everything is one. But within your own, if you think of oneness being one, and then you think of all these sort of pockets within the one where certain things gather, where you gather, these are part of your oversoul. But you would have in an infinite, almost, not technically, but far higher number than we would care to try to explain to you, of incarnations. That is why you come every week with, I connected to this group, and I know I'm part of this, and I know I'm part of, you're literally, Susan, everything.
Yeah,
So there
yeah, I
will
know
be no end. Well, there'll
I've
be
had
no
many
end to this.
lifetimes and as many
But it's
different
not even
galactic
just you.
races.
But
Yeah,
what we would say to you is, it's not just you that's had that. Literally everyone has had.
yeah,
But the thing is that you are now sort of touching upon all that you are, which is literally everything. But there are things that are sort of more closely related to you, specifically within your pocket, but you can extend out and extend out and extend out. And, you know, we could literally also talk about the fruit fly that you were, that lived for 15 minutes, you know. I mean, we can have that kind of conversation because you were that as well. But
yeah, I've heard
but
that. Yeah, that
yeah,
we've had lifetimes as many animals and everything before we became human. I've heard
no,
that.
no, no, no. You're not getting what we're saying to you. We're saying, you could even say that you are Wendy, or
Yeah,
you
we're part
are,
of the consciousness of all that is,
yes,
in a
yes.
sense. Yes,
So,
and to just
but
have
within
fun
your own,
exploring.
well, within your own soul, within your soul, that's part of the one. You can think about it like a stalk, and the stalk is connected to all that is the oneness. It comes from the oneness, and then that stalk sends out other little incarnations and
Yeah, I've
sort
thought
of,
of like
yeah,
spokes of a wheel.
yes,
Yeah, like your
yes,
oversoul is in the center with spokes of the wheel like extending out from
yes.
it, in
And
a
all the
sense.
wheels are still touching each other, and they're within the entirety of all that is. So yes. So your
Yes.
consciousness could even jump to, say, Wendy's oversoul and sort of tap into some of her things. So one of the assignments we would give you, if we are allowed, is to encourage you to have active conversations of, you know, you're part of my oversoul. What is, you know, what is that we can learn together, as opposed to how can you help me? Because it's not just about those beings helping you, but they also want to know you for their own growth. You understand? It can be an even exchange, and you can have more of a communication, as opposed to you're there to do something. They've come to you because you're part of who they are. And so get to know them and let them get to know you, because then the growth will be exponential for the two of you. That's what we would say about it. It's a very beautiful thing.
All
So
right. Yeah,
you're diving in and connecting to so many different parts of yourself. We would say spend quality time with them before you move on to the next one. So you really fully know and understand all that you're supposed to know and understand from those with you're connecting. But they're having a totally different, you know, experience of incarnation than, say, you are. They're not holding down jobs the way that you are. It's a very different kind of existence that they have, and that's a lot to maybe take in, and to even to try to bend your mind around. But they're trying to bend their mind around, what's this person on two legs walking around the planet driving in a car? You know, it's that kind of situation.
awesome. Okay, thank you very much for that insight. And yes, I will definitely continue to connect with them. So,
Okay. Ian has a question. Go ahead, Ian.
Hi. Over the last several or many years, actually, I've done some study on archetypes and how you can apply archetypes to spiritual lessons for yourself. And this is, why asking yourself why you may repeat certain patterns, or why certain things are in your life, or why you behave the way you do. I know, Karen, you're familiar with archetypes as well.
Yeah.
is there any teachings within Hinduism that is archetypal or similar?
Well, actually, yes, and that's true within any philosophy. That Radha was talking about mythology, that the gods of Hinduism are mythology, but they're also archetypes. They are types. They're jealous. They're this. They're that. They have certain aspects. They're the mother, the father. They're the
You're
the
right.
sister,
I
the
never thought of
brother.
that before.
Yeah, they're the man of struggle. They're the one that overcomes. They're the through literature and throughout history, we are constantly bombarded with archetypes. I just taught, as you may or may not know, and the people here, we just did a tarot class, and the first day we went through the major arcana of the wider rate tarot, and most tarot is based on that. And literally cards 1 through 21 or 0 through 21 are all archetypes, because they are literally the journey of man. And there isn't probably any archetype that we are not at some point in our soul journey. And we may be 1 or 2 or 3 or 100 in a lifetime, but we are all of them, and we embody all of them in a different sort of time. I don't necessarily think that they're the cause of our life, though. I think that we are, if you look at Death of a Salesman, which keeps coming to my mind, the lead character was an archetype of the guy who set out to do something and literally failed. And his struggle, the struggle to succeed and the struggle to overcome, and failure after failure after failure, that's a certain archetype. You have the Romeo and Juliet, the lovers archetype, the doomed lovers. You have any kind of Superman, the hero's journey is the archetype. So it would really just depend. It might be interesting to know what archetype you're embodying at a certain time, but I don't know that you can, it's not that you can't change it. I don't know that, I want to understand your question better. Ask the question again.
Well, for myself, I'll speak for it, or even with other people within my life, you try to identify why certain patterns are why they keep repeating themselves. And it's been very helpful to identify what archetype am I in at that time that makes me do that, whether I'm playing the victim, which is, there's 7 archetypes that everyone has. The victim is one of them, as well as the child and the prostitute and the martyr and the ego. And they've been just very helpful for myself to identify where am I coming from and why am I choosing to play that role instead of being authentic. And then it's also helpful to identify an archetype that is coming from another person, to understand where they're coming from. And it's very helpful on a spiritual level, I have found. And I was just wondering, because of your experience with Hinduism, if they had something that was very similar. And I think your answer was obviously yes. I never tied it to Greek mythology or other mythologies before, which opens a whole new door for me.
Well, maybe what's probably more familiar to people in the West, just because, at least in my school, we studied a lot of Greek theology. Look at the different, or the Greek and the Roman theology of philosophies of the different gods and the roles they played and the way they played them. I mean, most of the stories are very much about man's interaction with the world and how to overcome, and how things were, dealt with. So if you look at those stories, those are very much archetypes. I tend to feel that thematically we can't get away from archetypes. They're always going to sort of fall into a category. The thing is if it's an archetype that may not be the most serving you, then you would maybe say, okay, I'm falling into victimhood. I'm going to choose to own my actions. I'm going to choose to realize that, I'm changing gears, but it's in the same vein. So one of the things that I work with, especially in my psychic work, but also in any kind of counseling work that I do, is nonviolent communication. And so much of what we say is unconscious. We don't have a conscious idea of what we say. We make assumptions, we make declarations, we judge, and we don't actually quite understand how to communicate our wants and our needs, and to also be willing to listen to what another person is wanting and needing. And when it comes to your life, it's the same. We speak very violently to ourselves about ourselves, as opposed to actually acknowledging our needs and our wants. And I'll give you an example. Someone says, oh, this person is just like this, you know? So I'm kind of a little worried about you deciding what another person's archetype is, unless it's about in conjunction to how you are perceiving them versus, you knowing for sure what they want and how they need to, what they're needing. I'll give you an example. A wife says to her husband, you don't love me. All you do is work. All you do is work. You never spend time with me and the kids. And the husband's response is, I work because I want to put food on the table, and all you do is nag. What is it you want from me? And the woman goes, I want you to listen. This is a conversation that can go nowhere good, right? So it would be very different if the woman said to the man, I notice that you are not home that much. I notice that you're working. I would really like to propose that we pick a day of the week to spend time because I miss my connection with you, right? And the man would say, I choose to work because I'm afraid if I don't work enough, I'll lose my job. I also want to make sure that our family's secure. I hear you saying you want to spend time with, you want me to spend time. I want to spend more time with you. How about we pick a day? That's a totally different conversation. But the first conversation, he feels accused. She's saying he doesn't love her. Everything he's doing in his mind is because he does love her. And it's these kind of conversations that not only we have with ourselves, but other people, but just in life and in business, where we make assumptions, where we judge the other person. And when he says, what do you want from me? When he says it to her, she's saying, I want you to listen. But she hasn't said what she wants. What she wants is to spend time with him. What she wants is to connect, but she doesn't communicate her needs. He doesn't know what they are. He thinks he's doing his best, And so life is like that. And we get into these sort of victim mentalities because we don't take time to really listen to our own needs and to honor our own needs. That's kind of where I was going with that. But
that's a very good example. And there are countless others. I'm sure you know that. But thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Braden says, what are some ways to work with white magic? Braden, do you want to ask your question with your own voice? Can you?
Sure. What are some ways to work with white magic? I've heard of it from this group, but I don't know too many ways to work with it.
Well, I'm not studying the white magic that Jim is teaching, so maybe Angie can answer that question. But I would say anything that is going to open you up more positively to the world and connect you more deeply to the truth of who you are would be the best way to work with any kind of white magic, and to set intentions to make the world a little bit more beautiful and more harmonious. Go ahead, Ange.
Yes, we have offered the white magic classes, and if you want the information, you can email me, and you can purchase the recording. And then once you purchase the recording and you go through it, if you have questions, then you can email, and then we can try to get it. But it's about white magic is about it's the new magic that Gaia has. It's the new energy that she hasn't released in a very, very long time. And so this white magic that's available to us in the positive sense, it's this energy. So to utilize that the best, what I would do is go ahead and get that recording, and then it describes everything that you can do and how you can incorporate it into your life, your current life right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me see. Who else had a question? Bridget had a question. Hi, Bridget. Hi. You have a question? I was eating something. You have a question? Is she there? Bridget? You have to unmute, hon. Okay, maybe she stepped away. All right, let me go back to the YouTube.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
I have a question about myself and my business. As
Okay.
always, this very slow in January, February,
Mhm.
and usually it picks up in March, April, and the rest of the month. And I'm wondering whether I should just rest and wait with confidence, or that I should take on odd jobs to get whatever financial income I can gather. That is my
Well,
question.
Well, the question would be whatever gives you peace. If you're okay resting and you feel good and confident about it, then do it. But if you would feel better working, knowing that you've got money coming in and that gives you confidence, then do that.
That's exactly the point I'm at. Yes.
Yeah, choose what gives you peace. You know, try resting a few days, and if you start going stir crazy, go get a part-time job. I mean, we're almost in March anyway. It's the beginning of February. It's not, you know, but I'm sure if you've had January where it's too slow and you've got 4 more weeks of that to go, it might be a little bit. I would say, what did you do in January? Did you already do rest?
Yeah, partly, yes. And
So maybe take the rest of the month and go work a little bit. Just to give yourself peace. I know that for me, sitting around stressing about something is not the answer for me. I need action. I'm the kind of person, if I'm sitting in my car and I really need to go somewhere, I'd rather drive on the median, even if it's slower, if I can see the exit up ahead and get there, and sit there and just, bang my head against the steering wheel. And I will tell you, to be financially stressed, if there's even a little bit of a solution, it's nicer to bring some money in. I don't know what you're doing there, but it's very slurpy sounding.
Sorry, what did you say?
Are you doing something with water there?
Yes.
Okay, can you not do that while we're talking?
I walk away from it. I didn't know
So
that.
sounds like you're slurping a big giant drink, but don't just, financial stress, for anybody who's been in it, and I know I'm not alone, it's hell. Don't put yourself in hell. Go get a job for a little while.
Yes.
It's only
Thank
a couple
you.
weeks, and then you go back to your other business. Then you feel like you're in, you feel like you're in control and you're part of your own solution. But trying to relax when you're stressed is very difficult. Relax after a good hard day's of work. Then you're tired and you can go straight to sleep, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetie. Let me see. Okay. Joan says, we are part of the one but individualized experience, right? Yes, absolutely. Oh, Tanita is saying about the one density beings. I was asking, one density beings, when it comes to cloud entities, had to go back to, okay. So I need to go back to your question. Tanita's question says, I can see entities in the clouds. They seem to flow through our skies via ships with rows of being within. I believe they are one-dimensional beings. But what exactly are they doing up there? I think they're looking. I think they're watching. They're just watching. I feel more like they peek in and then they peek out. They peek in and they peek out. They're just watching, just like we watch certain things. You know, can you imagine you're an ant and then you see this giant eyeball staring at you when you get down on the ground? If you can even perceive it as an eyeball based on your perspective. They're just watching. I saw a meme today that said something like they believed that aliens used Earth as their insane asylum. That's probably what's happening. They're just checking in. Mr. Plate, what is your secret for staying young and beautiful? I have no secret, so I'm not the person to ask. Maybe talk to J-Lo.
I have a comment on that.
Okay,
You
Angie.
can talk to me about that.
Okay, Wendy.
So I am
Oh.
often.
Oh, sorry.
Angie was going to answer first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
The thing about looking good, looking good, feeling good is your own personal energy, your own personal of where you are. If you are choosing to be happy, and if you are choosing to not let all the different things in your life, yes, we all have our own instances, but it's how we react to it. If we can stay in that positive state, in that positive frame, you know what, that really did suck, but you know what, it is what it is, and I can't change that situation, or I can't change how that outcome it came, because the outcome is already gone, but all I can do is how I'm letting it affect me. My own personal is that the thing that is, I choose to be happy. I choose to be in that positivity, and that can actually allow you to feel younger. It can allow you to be more robust. It could allow you to, just be in a better place. I since I've incorporated that into that, it all begins with me, not outside of me, but with me. And when I can do that, when I can be, that positivity, it makes a big difference. That's what I've noticed in myself. That's what keeps me young.
Okay, Wendy, what did you have something to say about that?
Okay, telepathically, we were getting that same message, because that's exactly what I was hearing in my thoughts too. Was the keys to being youthful and young is to be youthful and young. So find that thing that makes you happy, joyful, and keeps you in your childlike connection to who you are as a self. And so, just like Angie was saying, when you feel that you're in a situation where you feel like there's no escape, or there's no out, or you just can't get out of your head with, whatever's spinning around, do something, off the wall, do something different, do something silly, find a game, go color, just step outside of yourself so that you can reconnect in with who you are within that childlike joy.
Okay, beautiful. I agree. I would say just beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And if you feel good, then you'll look good. And just also do things like don't smoke, don't drink, don't do things that are taxing to your body, don't eat too much sugar. Those are the physical things, but it's more important how you feel inside. Everyone's going to age. They're just going to do it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Let me see. And I would say embrace that and understand that your beauty is not only the physical. The beauty is what's inside you and how you feel. And, some of the most beautiful people, it's nothing to do with their looks, right? Okay. And Mitt Wally says, try smiling. That goes a long way. Okay. Okay. Was there any other questions in the room? Did anyone else have a question? We're actually right almost at the end. Tanita says, we're back to the cloud beings. She says, as I send love light to the cloud beings, they get a little brighter to the point that I can make out the kind of beings, and then they begin to dissipate. Well, I would say, Tanita, if you are actually communicating with them and you're able to connect for them and you ask why are they here, maybe it's just to meet up with you so they can brighten up for you, shine their light on you, and then they're done. Because if they dissipate there quickly thereafter, that means they're finished. So that's how I would take it. That's how I would take it. All right, I just want to quickly scan through if there's any questions. Oh, just thinking says, can you share one or a few ways to cleanse lower chakras in an effective way? I believe this might be helpful. Yeah, the way to cleanse it's chakras, by the way, I said chakras, but chakras, is to, you can go into meditation and you can send energy to the different chakras. And what you can do is visualize them. Usually if you focus in on them, you'll see that they might be a little muddied or clouded, and just send golden light down to each one of them and visualize them spinning. And as they spin, everything that's collected on top of them just spins off. But you also need to balance your actions of your life. You know, it's almost like you can't eat only junk food and expect to have a completely, I mean, some people do, so this is not the correct analogy, but to be completely healthy, you have to eat, sleep, and breathe your life, what you take in visually through your ears, through your eyes, and through your mouth. It should all be within the alignment of the life that you say you want to live. So things like, and understand what the different chakras associate to. You know, the base chakra is about security and feeling secure. It's also sexuality. And it's about balancing that, your relationship to that. If you're watching too much porn, maybe stop doing that so that you can get back into a healthy mindset. I'm not against anything. I'm just saying, you know, if you're talking about, you know, the chakra in your core, you know, that is really about your own well-being, your physical security. You want to do things that edify that. And it's not just about waving hands and balancing, which is part of it, but it's like, how do you continue to keep in balance? And so you really have to maybe do some lifestyle stuff that supports a balanced system within yourself. So it's one thing to balance them, but as soon as it's almost like, yeah, go wash your car and then drive through a mud puddle. Well, why did you even bother? You know, your vehicle is your body. So balance everything and then keep it balanced by keeping the input that you're taking into yourself, again, through your eyes, through your ears, you know, through your mouth, through your pores. Keep that in balance as well. Okay, we are 2 minutes away from being done. So I want to ask Angie, did you have any announcements, Angie?
Oops, sorry.
Susan, Wendy, I'll answer that offline if you don't mind. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
No announcements at this time.
Okay.
We're gonna think about Jim and I'm gonna get in touch with Jim and see what class that we want to offer to the people next. If you are interested in any of the classes, send me an email at classes@hucolo.org, because that's what we're going to be doing next. And we'll probably be doing that in March. We'll probably be doing a class in March, late March. And so if you're interested in anything, any of the classes offered, we have White Magic Level 1, White Magic Level 2, White Magic Level 3. We have Galactic Energy Healing Student, Galactic Energy Healing Teacher. We have crystals and stones. We have chakras, a chakra class. We have a chakra class, chakra. We have we have beliefs belief systems, and there's a second part that goes with it. So belief systems and how our belief systems really I don't really want to say dictate our lives, but drive our lives.
Yeah.
Drives our life with our belief system. So, and
Oh my goodness.
So if you are interested in any of those, go ahead and shoot me an email at classes@hucolo.org. And we will, when I get together with Jim, we will figure out what the majority of the people would like.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Okay, do you want to do a prayer to go out? And who else wants to do a prayer going out? Wendy?
Sorry.
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
do one. I usually
great.
get translation after light language, so
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay,
I'll give
why
that.
don't we come back to Angie, and we'll start with. Are you okay, Angie? Drink some water, and then we'll come back to do a prayer, if you want.
I'll do a prayer, but water will only cause me to drown because it's in my lungs.
Okay. All right. We'll pray for your lungs as well. Are you going to do it?
Yes, you said we'll come back to you.
Oh, well, then you said I'll do
that's
a
what I
prayer,
was
so
waiting
I thought you were going to do it.
Okay. So, all right, yes. Mhm. I ato ko ono uchi I se miata ko hada. Nahai I tutunono ku uro te ki am. Nahara I ku am te a sananiata ka tu ku u. Hata to no umnamchi te ki a ta sanana. Unami ata so ku ko momoa. Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, Wendy.
A kahuianiara ta ira na huhu tu ira ka e te kruia mama I te tuhiana na I ki ha huiana ma a pa o tuhiana haiki e ta ka imale e te tuia mala a huira tiena I ta hai e te hu o mahai ira na I chi te kuhura o na a tahira na ra kuhuru tu uniara tahira taha. A tahiana na kahaira paho toro 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 toro. This conversation has brought you many blessings and opening of consciousness today. We ask each of you to remember to go deeply within oneself for deeper understanding. Seek out those symbolisms and archetypes as you would like to research further and more fully. Know that your guides and your teams are always with you. They send you messages, images, ideas. These are all within your heart space. Connect with your heart and you will be set free. The freedom of the path of who you are within the oneness. Our blessings to you. Namaste. You're on mute, Karen.
I just said beautiful. Susan.
Okay. Tosika ye tukutoa yesia, sukutohea ye sikito toahia, sukutoa yesi kiteakoa, sikitia ko, hiasia yukoa. Greetings from the Galactic Dragon. Sukutoa yitia yukoa. This is Eonor. Sukutoa yita yuko, hiaia, sukuya ye, suku. You are accelerating in your soul's growth. Sukutia sikia at this time. Sukutoa hi tuko sia ko hia sikuya suku. Embrace your expansion. Sukutoia hia sukuya hia. Trust your inner knowing. Sikitia tu sikia hia sukuya ia sikia yo sikia ye ko sikia kukwa. Prepare for the accelerated energies in your world. And continue your inner work. To be prepared to remain in balance. Stay centered within your heart. You are greatly loved by your galactic brothers and sisters. Continue to share your light codes, your higher vibrations with the human collective. Love and blessings. Starting to lose my throat at the end there.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone. So Jim will be back next week, and we will see you all then, and have a fantastic week. Much love to everyone. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye.